At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
I'm doing everything I can. And stop calling me Shirley.
The center has to be at least 3 times bigger than this.
All right, it's another edition of Sincerely Unqualified. I'm Kevin. As always, we got Winnie. Today we got Easy A. It came up on me kind of out of nowhere. I just was on Netflix last week and saw that it was on the top 10, and I'm pretty sure it was on the top 10 up until last night when I watched it.
Honestly, it's up to like number 8 now. It snuck up on all of us. I feel like they added it to Netflix, and then everybody was just like, "Oh, this is, well, I'll give it a chance." And you rewatch it and realize how good it is again.
Yeah, and that's the thing I'm thinking is because from what I remember, and I don't even know if this is correct if I'm being honest, but I feel like when this came out, it didn't really get that much shine, or at least people watched it and they just kind of were whatever on it.
Yeah.
And then, and granted, look, there were some bad movies that have been in the Netflix top 10. No doubt about that. But for a comedy that got released 10 years ago to be sitting in the top 10 for like a full week, that says something about the movie for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, it also came out at a time where you're releasing all of these incredible movies. I mean, like Superbad had come out obviously 3 years before, but I feel like this is the time of like Talladega Nights, all that stuff. Like this is box office
in the
paradise. Yeah, literally in the golden age. So for a movie to be slept on back then, it's going to reach the top 10 back now. That'd be like them releasing Step Brothers on Netflix. Everybody's just going to stream that. It's going to go to number 4, number 3.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's Step Brothers, absolutely. No way it's not just sitting there. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, right off the bat, I don't know how much credit this got when it first came out. And I think that people have now kind of, like, warmed up to it.
Oh, yeah. I can see that happening over the years, too, just because, it didn't get as much recognition. I don't think in the box office. I think it did like 75 million overall, which today you look at and you're like, that's, not overwhelming, but for what they made it for, I think it was like 8 million they made it for. That's a great, successful movie. I mean, in their eyes, that's an incredible movie. Yeah. But
it's like a Blumhouse movie.
Yeah, that's it. Blumhouse just produces hit after hit. It's like people can't stop watching them for some reason.
Well, I don't know if it's hit after hit.
Hit after hit.
Very low budget movie to make.
Let me rephrase. Hit after hit. We'll say return on investment after return on investment, because they can make a Blumhouse movie for $7 in an IOU. But
they can make a Blumhouse movie for someone's aunt's cherry pie, and then just a niss hug. Just to let them know that they feel safe when they watch the movie.
You're going to be okay.
So, hey, man, speaking of hits, we got to get this out of the way. And if you're new with us, which you probably are, or at least maybe you watched our Superbad episode, we actually did pretty well, at least for our standards, on a clip on TikTok. So we had some new followers. We got some new listeners, hopefully, because we got some new subscribers on YouTube. Rundown quick is just, we like talking comedy movies. We're huge stand-up comedy fans. We're comedy movie fans in general. We don't really consider ourselves film guys. So, we like to sometimes look at those things, sometimes look at like the convention of films and all of that. But for the most part, with this podcast, we're just going to kind of give our take on comedy movies. It's probably not going to be taking ourselves super seriously, but we do like to have some, what I think and what Winnie thinks is interesting conversation. But, I don't think that we're going to be deep diving into technical parts of movies. So that's just who we are.
Yeah.
Woody, you have anything to say to the people?
Yeah, we're not going to go into like, what kind of camera they used or the lighting, but we'll get you some interesting stuff about each movie because all the movies that we're going to highlight are in their own right are worth being talked about. And I don't think they've been.
Yeah.
Some of them have been talked about a ton. Some of them are part of our daily conversations, but some of them need to be, like Easy A, talked about way more than they are, which is helping that they're trending on Netflix. I mean, that's just a fuel in the fire. It's just, this is why it's so deserving of it, because now it's getting its spotlight.
Yeah. And now look, some movies are pure comedies and they just have the it factor. It just makes everyone laugh. Doesn't matter. So you're going to love them. We're going to talk about them. Movies like this, very funny. And this can kind of go into the insight section, but I think that there's more interesting conversation to have about a movie like this, but it's still so funny that you just put it, well, I mean, it is a comedy. So I guess like there are just different kind of ones that we're going to talk about. We did it's going to be our first listed episode, top 10 favorite comedy movies of all time. That's kind of our guide at the moment to be looking at what movies we want to talk about first. Also, we did honorable mentions. So there are a ton of movies that we talked about. What I would say is with all of our new followers, we want to keep our social interaction going. We want to talk with all of you. So do us a favor. On our Instagram, it's really easy to see. Also on our TikTok, I think that my top 10 is on there. Look at our top 5s, look at our top 10s, listen to that episode, see what you might want to hear about. Let us know. We want to do and talk about movies you guys want to know or want to know more about, want to hear about. I definitely don't think there's any on our top 30 or whatever it ended up being that people wouldn't like.
And if it's not on there, don't forget to yell at us for not including it, because that's what I will say is if it's not on there, it probably was for a reason. There are a few that I think I've missed out on literally just by like completely forgetting. So if so, let us know. I think our plan right now is to stick with like our top 10 around there, but if not, let us know. We'll see what we can do. And definitely our DMs are open. Let us know. We're fluid. We're, if something's good, we're going to talk about it.
Oh, for sure. All right. So, hey, let's get into the episode then. We'll start out with Flick Takes, which is our insight section, just kind of where we talk generally about the movie, and then we'll move on to our facts section and talk favorites. But first with Flick Takes is, and I kind of touched on it a little, I think, honestly. But really what I want to talk about and what I want to ask you, Winnie, is do we think that this is like the other guys in the fact that, it came out in 2010. That's later than some of the movies we've been talking about. But is it kind of like a little ahead of its time? Like we have all the, I guess you can call it, and this is another conversation, sex positivity, because she's, not actually having sex, but she's wearing promiscuous outfits. She's doing all this stuff. And it's something that, it's hyperbolized even for nowadays meaning 10 years after the movie was made. Yeah. But do we think it was a little ahead of its time?
I think so, in that even in Superbad or anything like that, it was aimed toward, them getting towards sex and them going towards that goal, but it was definitely not as outward as this was in its approach. Like it wasn't as in your face. This is strictly like in your face. This is going to happen. You're not going to avoid it in any sense. We're not using any like cheap tricks or anything like that. Mm-hmm. We're literally just going to, show you how it is. And there's nothing in it that's outwardly, like they're doing the act or anything, because that's the whole movie. I mean, she's faking it with everybody. But the outward, and even the parents are great. I mean, they're like, we know this isn't happening. Yeah. That relationship.
I think, like, just specifically with the sex stuff, what I think is super interesting is the fact that it's obviously a coming of age movie. Yeah. You have, I was just thinking about it. Just 3 off the top of my head would be this one, and you said Superbad, and then let's go American Pie too. Mm-hmm. In those 3 movies, all the objective is Well, this movie, the objective isn't to have sex. And I guess that's what I'm saying is when you have these high school rom-com coming of age movies, the goal is to have sex. Yeah. Like in the end of American Pie, that's what they're trying to do. Obviously, it's a lot deeper than that. I know. Exactly. But let's be real here. That's what at least the guys are after. So, and like it's centered on males, both of those movies. Yeah. So they take it, they say, okay, what if Emma Stone, killer, by the way, obviously, killer. What if she is pretending to have sex? And then let's throw a layer on top of it. Yeah. Let's make it so it's parallel to a book that a lot of people had to read. By the way, did you have to read The Scarlet Letter? I never did.
I did not, actually. So I didn't have to read that or Huckleberry Finn, which were the main references that they made in the movie, which were throughout. I mean, that Huckleberry Finn reference, I gotta say, that they threw in there was awesome. That was awesome.
Okay. I had no idea. That went over my head when I watched the movie the first time, like 10 years ago or whatever. Yeah. And then I might have only rewatched this once, and it was last night. But when I was researching for the podcast, I had no clue. They also were just like, oh, by the way, he's also, it's parallel Huckleberry Finn. Yeah. Huckleberry Finn. Can't speak.
Huckleberry Finn. Yeah,
Huckleberry Finn. It's a really skinny version of Huckleberry Finn.
Exactly. That's what they did.
It's the after version of Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah, exactly. So that was unreal. I think with this movie too, what they did was it's kind of looking at it from, because obviously, like you said, I mean, Superbad and American Pie are from the male perspective mostly.
Yeah, two very different.
Yeah.
Movies.
So what this movie did is not only did it take it from the female perspective, which is new in how its approach goes, everything like that, how it can be viewed on the other side of the spectrum, like, oh, we're just trying to do this versus like this is kind of a big moment, everything that happens. It's taking that and it's saying like even the little things in it where the kid walks out of the room, Brandon, after that whole scene, and then he's looked at as the man, and then everybody immediately looks at Emma Stone like, oh, you're disgusting. That kind of whole thing, it's bringing, and then the end ties it together, obviously, where it's like, it's none of your goddamn business. But I think it does a great job of exposing and kind of talking about how sex can be positive for both genders in a way. It's like I feel like it addresses that throughout.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a lot of nuance in this movie, obviously. Well, actually, I don't know if there's a lot of nuance. I think what this movie actually does well is it's very self-aware, and it is proudly not nuanced, because it just takes whatever it's given and just is like, okay, this is what's going to happen. It's like, this is clearly how guys think. This is how girls think. This is the relationship that girls and guys have with sex in high school. And it can be seen in again, I didn't know that we were going to keep talking about these three movies, but they're all coming of age high school movies. So it's kind of weird thinking about the fact, and we won't get into the social justice stuff or anything, but of course it makes sense that a movie about a girl's perspective on this stuff makes a lot of sense. You're just looking at one gender with most of the high school coming of age stuff, because it's funny, like the guy's quest to lose his virginity. Well, girls involved in that too. So that's the other thing. They just made an American Pie movie. I got to admit, I did not watch it. Maybe I will at some point, but I was talking to you when it came out. It's like, that makes so much sense for a female reboot. Like, I'm not going to say that the Ghostbusters necessarily needed to be rebooted or remade with an all-female cast. The all-female cast was fantastic. I honestly, I also didn't watch that one, but it makes sense to be like, okay, here's the just talking about movies I didn't watch. Yeah. But like, okay, American Pie. Here's this super male-driven movie. If you ask me, not a big deal that it's male, but if we're going to reboot things from a female perspective, I think that this is the perfect place to be in, because all we've seen from these race for sex movies have been from the male perspective. Because honestly, I genuinely think that it's probably just because it's easier to write, and guys will be like, guys from the age of 14 to 35 are gonna be like, yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
and this movie was awesome too. And it took the perspective, like, I mean, Superbad, you could say, does the same thing, but it takes the perspective of the guys too. It takes into account the guys who are not likely to, you know, get to that point.
Sure.
The guys who are just vying for attention in any way possible. And in that, they're paying with like them paying with gift cards for her to say this stuff. I feel like that's another great thing that happens. That's a little thing. So, I mean, with real prostitution, you get paid with cash, obviously, everything like that. I mean, if something happened, I feel like this almost plays on that, where it's like nothing actually happens. So here's a gift card to Target. Like, here's $50 to Home Depot. She wants
this is like that
$100 in office supplies. Like,
it's like when people's grandparents give them those Visa gift cards, and it's just like money, you know, use it wherever, to somehow scheme to get cash to buy like some, you know, weed or something.
Exactly.
It all seems like once you layer on top of like, oh no, well, it's the card, and then you have to do the transaction, and then you have to do so and so. Suddenly it doesn't seem so bad, you know? Yeah.
It's like, well, you know, I could go to Home Depot, buy a couple 4x4s, sell them for cash to some guy for half the price, and then it's like, what are you doing here?
Yeah. No, I mean, but it works out. It works out. You definitely made a good point with Superbad. Like, Superbad, and obviously this number one comedy of all time is Superbad. That's what it does well with the other side. Like, you know, American Pie's like hot dudes, you know, maybe one weird guy, whatever. No, Superbad does a great job about kind of putting the more strange people, I guess you could say, not strange, but just like normal people.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly,
this does too. I mean,
you mentioned the gift cards, which is pretty movie specific. The one movie specific thing I want to point out is that the craziest thing I've ever seen in any movie ever happens in this movie. And it's when they have fake sex for the first time in front of the whole party. Before that, the reason they were able to is because Melanie Bostic, who had the party, was just like, yeah, no, take my room. She was just like, hey, I need to have sex in a room. Like, where can I do it? One, the answer is like, not in any room.
Yeah.
Figure it out if you really want to have sex.
Go
Two,
home.
if you're going to give her a room, the answer is not my room.
Do you have no
what
other
are we
rooms?
Doing?
Like, who offers their personal room immediately? No hesitation.
If there was a gun to my head and it was like my room or my parents' room, I'm going my room. But she willingly offered that up. And that is the craziest thing I think I've ever seen. I was disgusted. I forgot about that. I was disgusted last night.
It takes you out of it for a second because you're like, whoa. Did she just do that? No. You almost like, it's great that it's a rewatch because you almost have to take the remote and go back 10 seconds and be like, I just got to see this transpire again, because who in their right mind is going to be like, you could have my room?
What? Melanie Bostic. That's who. Melanie Bostic, you crazy person.
Party at Melanie's. Just Melanie's so frugal with her room. Like, what else is she letting people do in her room?
Ooh, that's a good question. Not good stuff. That's for sure.
But why was she so quick to jump to the gun and just be like, you can have my room? Has this happened before to Melanie?
You know what? I bet Melanie's room might have been, she had the spare sheets on the bed.
Yeah.
That room was used before that night, I bet.
Do you think
during that night?
That one part of the movie, because it's kind of like everybody going, whoa, what? Because I feel like they kind of had to throw it in as Melanie's room. But what are they going to say? Oh, go use the guest room? I guess they could say that, but I feel like it's even funnier and it brings you into it.
I'll tell you what.
It's like, all right, it's Melanie's room.
That's why they pay you the big bucks, kid. Guest room's good. Because I was gonna say I don't know. He's like, yeah, no, nothing to offer here.
The
Gotta
garage.
do Melody's.
Yeah. Is hers the only room with
yeah,
a
well, that's what I
keyhole
was
they could
thinking.
see through? I guess. I don't know.
Go outside, yeah. Neighbor's a creep, but just you gotta go for it.
There's 2 trees out there. Go park up. That's like the American Pie scene. What do they park up in down by the lake on a blanket? Like,
Oh, dude, dockside.
yeah, dockside. Nobody's
That's
offering
classic.
their room in American Pie. Stifler's not like, yeah, you can use my room. Nobody's like, what world is this?
No, yeah, who knows?
Freaking Melanie. But alongside the craziness, like within the line of crazy and crazy, because Melanie is top crazy in this movie. Number 2 crazy. Number 2 crazy. Real close behind is Lisa Kudrow's character.
Friends is Lisa Kudrow.
She's friends is Lisa Kudrow.
She's in a lot of other stuff. Lisa Kudrow didn't deserve that.
So
smoke.
one
It's
thing I've
Lisa
noticed
Kudrow.
about Lisa Kudrow is she did a great job in transitioning once she got off Friends and has like a bajillion dollars now for being, Phoebe.
Lot
She's
of
like,
money.
oh my God, I have all these boyfriends. I never watched Friends. I don't know. I think that's what happened.
She was like, "Oh man, I'm a paleontologist. Isn't this
She's
fun?"
like, wow.
I
bones.
haven't watched Friends.
Okay. She's like, pivot.
She was like,
pivot. I haven't watched Friends.
she was like, ha ha ha. That was my Fran Drescher. So you haven't watched Friends at all?
No, I haven't watched Friends.
I just threw you through a loop. All right, go. Keep going.
All right, pivot.
Lisa Kudrow. Tell us about it.
The only line I know from Friends is pivot when they have the couch on the stairs. But we're going to avoid all Friends talk because I have enough. But Lisa Kudrow, what I love about her in general is that she pivoted from that Friends role into like anything you see her in now. She's like the strong, slightly power abusive lead. Like not lead, but she's a character who is in a power position and abuses that power for her own gain, which I love.
Yeah.
I mean, she's amazing at it. And in this movie, she's the guidance counselor who does that exact thing.
Yeah.
Like
you know what I think? Yeah. What lends her so well to that is because she's tried and proven and being able to just speak words at a normal level and then start going off for like, but it's not crazy. It's like it's a little unhinged, but that's the Lisa Kudrow. That's the Lisa Kudrow right there.
Okay. So when it was like, she's like, you got to tell everybody. So Emma Stone comes in. She's like, you got to tell everybody. And then Lisa Kudrow's like, who do you think they're going to believe? Who do you think they're going to believe? Like that whole thing, that just slight transition.
It's like
she's like,
it's
right.
like in The Ring, or no, not The Ring. Sorry.
In The Ring, yeah. When they climb
No.
TV.
Very, very different than The Ring. In Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
When Bilbo's like, when he sees the ring and then all of a sudden his eyes go purple and he's like, nah.
Yeah. Just that slight transition.
She kind of does. So if there's a scale, he's all the way up here.
Yeah.
And then normal down at the bottom. Mm-hmm. I would put Lisa Kudrow in the bottom quarter. She's not quite at half.
You're in the Kudrone. The Kudra zone.
Oh, the Kudrone.
Yeah, the Kudrone. Kudra zone.
Yeah, Kudrone. We're going to get that going.
Yeah,
we have the Sincerely Unqualified cinematic universe, and now we have the Kudrone.
If anyone
raises their voices during a comedy, we're going to point it out.
Slightly raises. All right, so Seth Rogen is in there too, because he, like, even in Pineapple Express, raises his voice. He's in the Kudrone.
Oh!
Yeah. What do you mean we got to break our phones? But so he's in this Kudrone. He's in, but her character is great because she is the guidance counselor. So she's supposed to be the representative of like, I'm here to help. I'm your light in this madness that is high school. And then she is the absolute opposite of that for Emma Stone because she ends up screwing a 22-year-old who's been held back for 6 years. Like
it's legal though, she said.
She is the meanest guidance counselor I think I've ever seen in my life.
Well, she's obviously just a piece of crap person, you know?
Yeah.
She's not a good person.
When Emma Stone's in there and she's like, trying to explain the situation to her, she just pulls out all the condoms. She's like, "You're gonna need these." She's like, "Actually, I don't." She's like, "You're gonna need these. Don't get trapped into a situation that you don't want to be in. Like, you're gonna need these."
Yeah, that was a good moment to feel bad for Emma Stone. Like, I mean, obviously, you kind of feel bad for her the whole time, even though she seems to be enjoying what she's doing. But we're throwing around bad person, and something that I actually think is really important with this movie, something that we should talk about, is the fact that, we were talking about 2020, sex positivity, all that kind of stuff. But it is obvious that with I was going to say juxtaposition. I was going to sound smart with how we have the parallel working with Scarlet Letter. I think that it obviously has Amanda Bynes' character, which is kind of like the whole village, just, very religious, she looks down on Emma Stone in a very bad way. So I was kind of thinking, like, what did the Christian community, like, how'd they react to this movie? And something that I kind of thought was interesting, like, look, obviously they're not too cool with it. Amanda Bynes looks like a crazy person. The article that I read, basically they said, like, they literally, it's kind of everything that's wrong with Christianity. Like, she does not look like a Christian loving person. She looks hateful. But the thing that was interesting, because it was kind of like a movie review too, so they thought a little deeper about it. And they said, in a film that seeks to expose judgment toward those who are ridiculed, it fails to see it judges those who live according to true Christian faith too harshly. So it's kind of like, look, obviously it's literally supposed to be the Scarlet Letter in a different reimagined way. But something that I always try to do is stay out of the echo chamber, because I think you can always just look at a movie and be like, oh, this is great, whatever. Yeah. But then if it kind of seems to not attack. I wouldn't quite say attack, but basically there's obviously a connotation that goes along with just that's how the book, it's it's kind of like when you're watching an adaptation of a movie, like on a book. Well, that's what it is, obviously, but it's source material. You gotta work with the source material.
I mean, that's why everybody just says that the book is better, and we get it. You read. But aside from that, it's a rough kind of representation of the interpretation of what's in the reading. Like, it's not always going to be a direct thing. And also, like, something that I read about that, because I was interested in that too, because it seemed like kind of just a hyperbole of somebody who's intensely religious as well. It wasn't even like somebody who's intensely religious. It was just an outward kind of, it was them exaggerated to the nth degree. Exactly. And the one thing that the director, Will Gluck, said is that he was like, if there's one thing that I could do, it was almost tone down that character. He said, if there's one character I regret, it's actually, Amanda Bynes' character, because it goes a little too far in attacking that group of people. It's not meant to, it's more of an observation on the religious community as a whole. And he saw it as going towards, the Christian people and everything like that. But there wasn't too much backlash for it.
No. And that's because, it turns into an easy antagonist at that point. Yeah. Like, it's obviously very easy to be like, screw Amanda Bynes. Like, it's literally, it's a rom-com centered on Emma Stone. You're not going to not like Emma Stone in this movie. Exactly. It's just simple as that. Okay. Like, she's being asleep.
Can we say one thing, though, that Amanda Bynes' character in this, it was easy to hate her, but it was also, there were so many good bits with her in it. Like the stapler, just their rapport, working back and forth with each other, their quips, like back and forth with each other when she's working the menial desk job in there. She's sharpening the pencils in the office, or like trying to staple everything like that. I think, you take away from the exaggerations of the character and you bring it back to the reality of like these two characters in their own right interacting with one another. And take away the backstory, it's incredible. Like, those two work so against each other that it's great.
Yeah, that's also why I think it works really well with it being as exaggerated as it is, because Emma Stone obviously is only portraying the exaggeration on the other side.
Yeah.
So Emma Stone is this act like she's a very intelligent seeming, down to earth person. Whereas opposed, like if she was just doing all this stuff and that was a movie about that, this movie would suck. It would just like you would have two hyperboliized characters, but since you have the one, it kind of works. But I do understand. Like now, I didn't hear that about Will Gluck saying that, but that makes sense. I think that makes sense. Also, this might have gotten mentioned in Inexclusive exclusives, but just real quick, I want to say this because I know I just cut you off. But no, Amanda Bynes, her like this character, she watched this movie, quit acting. She just this was her last movie. It took her out of acting.
Is this the reason why, or was it just
apparently? Yeah, I don't know if it was because of the way she was portrayed or anything. Yeah. I think she must have watched herself and just been like, no, this isn't for me anymore. Which it's funny talking about the character and thinking about it more deeply, being like, I wonder if that's it.
Rest in peace to the Dancing Lobsters. I mean, she had quite a run too going up to that. Wasn't she in She's the Man too?
Herbie? Yeah, I mean, she was the man. She was aforementioned man.
The man. She was said man.
Said man. Well, didn't she?
No, Lindsay Lohan was in Herbie.
Actually, oh, Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah.
I just saw. I was driving around LA and I saw someone with that car, and I was like, "Who has a Herbie car? Like, this is not 2002.
Who's driving that unironically? It's either Lindsay Lohan or it's literally got to be Lindsay Lohan.
It wasn't Lindsay Lohan. I saw the person. I don't know. Like, must have been a huge Herbie fan.
Maybe it was Lindsay Lohan playing her own twin again. She was just playing her own twin again, and she had taken a different form.
Could have been.
Parent Trap 2.
Speaking of Inexclusive exclusives, should we break into that? Should we keep the momentum going there?
Closing flick takes that you'd like to mention? Anything overarching about the movie that we should?
I don't think so. I guess something I would like to just touch on, bring it all back together is it really is self-aware, I think. Yeah. Because even in the beginning, they did the thing in movies where they go, oh, this isn't going to be one of those movies. But even when they say it here, you know it is, and it doesn't steer away from it at all. It works in that way. So she's like, oh, this isn't like, oh, who am I? What am I going to be? Yeah. And there are literally even so many nods to philosophy. This is so obviously an existential angst movie. What am I going to do? How did she get herself in this situation? And it just keeps progressing along and along. And a lot of movies can't really do that well, but I think this movie does that extremely well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's self-aware enough to know that it's doing that kind of thing. And I also think that even mentioning, the 16 Candles, the Breakfast Clubs, all of those, it's self-aware enough to know that it's on the same path as where those set it off on. Because those were kind of, those movies are incredible. They're classics. You can't, get rid of those. But now in that era of 2010, when these movies are coming out, we're entering this hyper sarcastic period almost, where this hyper, more intelligent and sophisticated comedy. So you almost have to take that route when you're going down this
thereof.
Exactly. I feel like they took that route when they're making one of those movies. They're like, we're going to acknowledge that we're doing one of these movies, but we're going to do it in a way where even though we're doing it, it's like when Dave Chappelle tells you the punchline before he says the joke and you still end up laughing. It's like, what we're doing. We're literally telling you we're doing this, but with a different formula, and you're still going to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the way, Dave Chappelle, he, I guess it happened to time up that he was going to be Saturday Night Live after the election, and it got called that day. Good timing, SNL. Good job, Lauren. Lauren's pulling the strings. Lauren put Biden in the
45. Lauren flipped Pennsylvania himself.
Yeah, it was just Lauren.
Just Lauren.
All right. let's move on to exclusives. We'll give some facts for you guys. Hopefully they're interesting. Hopefully you haven't heard them before. If you went searching for them on the internet, you just may have. So I'm sorry about that. First one, it's going to be hard for me to get through this one. We're going to go for it though. So I was going to put this on Winnie, but he said, Kevin, you're so bad at pronouncing things sometimes on the podcast. I'm going to give you a German word.
Yeah.
So when one of the payments to Emma Stone is a foreign film ticket that's going to expire, she is going to the theater, and on the marquee it shows some of the movies being played. And I'm just gonna look at the spelling here. I'm gonna go just because how I think it's gonna be pronounced.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Der Schlagercoat Buchstab.
Sounds right. Sounds
Der
correct to me.
Schlagercoat Buchstab.
It's perfect.
The foreign movie house.
Ich bin ein Berliner. You sound just like our. You sound just like Jam.
Hey, we don't do accents, okay?
We don't, but
so that movie, it's a German movie title. Movie title. It's actually The Scarlet Letter in German. And then right below it also is, and this is something I can do, is Vamos por las Chicas. It was the Latin American name of Fired Up. That was not okay. Sometimes I accidentally throw a little twang on it.
Yeah,
but
a little
also just so people who don't know, I
here he goes.
Spoke Spanish, speak. So every now and then a little bit of accent comes out. Just that's what he was talking about.
Yeah, he legit spoke Spanish too. It's not like he's one of those guys who's like, I speak Spanish, and it's like you took 4th grade Spanish 12 years ago. No, he legitimately was proficient. Just throwing in his credentials.
Speak.
Yeah.
Put some respect on my name.
I'm gonna try and pronounce this too.
Las Chicas. It is the Latin American title for Fired Up, which is the film that Will Gluck directed beforehand. Horrible fact. Let's do it again. Not horrible fact. I actually think it's super interesting. Horrible pronunciation. So,
all right, let's try it one more time. Run through it one more time. I need to hear it.
Der Schlagercoat Buchstab.
Yeah.
It was just The Scarlet Letter in German, and Vamos por las Chicas was Fired Up in the Latin American world.
You kind of have to put more anger into it. Der Schlagercoat Buchstab.
Yeah, see, actually, that was pretty good.
Yep.
You know what? Let's move on. What's your next fact?
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, as we saw in this movie, the majority of Emma Stone's, narration of the movie was actually her just speaking into a webcam. It's funny because her audition was over a webcam. She couldn't get to the audition, so she actually did it through the internet, did it over webcam, which I think helped her get the role because the majority of the main character's narration is obviously speaking into a webcam. So when your audition is over a webcam and the character is speaking into a webcam for, I'd say, all of the narration throughout the entire film, that is going to help your chances 1,000,000%.
Yeah. And I know that it was set in that the whole way, obviously the whole movie was supposed to be her doing the broadcast that you then figure out in the end was happening the whole time. It was just one continuous webcam filming, which also when I said before, I was about to cut you off. Did you realize that when you were watching it the first time? Because I kind of forgot about that. And it literally, watching it the second time, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. But I might just be dumb.
Well, you don't see it kind of come full circle until the end.
Yeah.
I feel like because you hear the narration and it kind of goes in and out a little bit. You think she's doing kind of maybe installments.
I thought it was like a vlog diary.
Exactly.
But yeah. It's honestly, it's a really good way to move the plot along as a narrative device.
Oh yeah.
It's genius. So I guess she was going up against Jennifer Lawrence for this, and you got to assume that the webcam helped her out. You know, and
Absolutely.
if she's really good on the webcam, you know, you can't go wrong with either of those two. So
Well,
I guess
those
you go
two-
with the one that the webcam.
They're gonna. I mean, either one of those is gonna be great. But let's just think about this. So I want to look this up for a second. So I want to see Hunger Games. Okay, so it wasn't directly conflicting. I was gonna say, like, imagine if Jennifer Lawrence took this and then Katniss Everdeen was Emma Stone. You know, like if it was that kind of flip flop. If it was like
That would have been crazy.
that would have been cool. But Hunger Games was 2012. I do like the webcam thing. You know how they moved the plot along a little bit. They had it separated into 5 sections. And the script was written in 5 or 6 days, apparently. So I can see how this overarching narration and having it split into those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 definitely helped to, you know, he said once he's on a roll, you know, it kind of just started flowing over the 5 days of writing. Seems incredible.
It was the first. I sound like I'm nitpicking you. He wrote all of it except for the first 10 pages in the first 5 days. So like the last 10 to like really sum everything up and like, you know, the whole scene ended up being like a little longer of a process. But yeah, to write like most of the movie, the vast majority in 5 days, you're in a flow state. You're just going.
Look, some people take 3 weeks to write a 4-page essay. To write a script in 5 days, that is dedication. That's like
you have a vision and not much else to do.
Exactly. That's like that's what they tried to do in The Shining, where he went to the hotel. He's like, I'm going to write. And he never ended up doing it.
It didn't go well for him.
That's what happened here. I guess you just lock yourself down. You pull a McConaughey. You're like, I'm going to go to the desert. And you just go and you write your book. And then you
do peyote with a cougar or whatever it was.
Just sit inside with a cougar. We don't recommend it, but if you're cool enough, they'll just chill with you.
Depending on what kind of cougar, could be a good time.
Dude, imagine being that cool.
Ew.
But that's the next season of Cougar Town, just doing peyote in a cage.
Oh yeah. Sounds like a good Saturday night. All right. So we talked about the sex scene before. Something that I didn't catch, I literally saw it retroactively after I watched that scene.
Yeah.
But I guess her brother appears at the party after they walk out after having sex.
Yeah.
So like her
real brother,
her little
right?
adopted brother is
little
just
brother.
chilling at the party. Yeah, I mean her only brother.
Oh my gosh. Wait, I read this and I thought it was like, okay. I thought it was like, because I didn't catch it in the scene. So I was like, oh, like
Me
her
neither.
brother must have been, you know, whatever. But it's her little brother from the movie that's in
You
the
know what's
scene.
funny? You know what's super funny? I just said that. I didn't even bother double checking. Like I trust the source where I got from. Like I truly trust it. But it could be wrong. It could be Emma Stone's brother. Let's continue.
That's for you to decide.
You go on the next one. I'm going to fact check myself.
Okay, so I'm wondering, I feel like imagine if
Just go.
I'm gonna just go. All right. So that's really funny, actually.
You
So
bought
the
it,
next
though.
one, I did. I mean, you fully had me. So the next one that I'm gonna go to, the next fact is that when Olive is going to the bookstore, right?
I think it's
And
just
she's-
Emma Stone's brother, by the way. Sorry.
Is it her real brother? I was gonna say, like,
Emma
I feel
Stone's
like that
brother
would have
appears
been
in the
more-
party scene after Olive and Brandon pretend to have sex. That sounded a lot more interesting, but I thought it was. It's been a long weekend, guys. So for those unfamiliar with the inner workings, we had a brief stint of a non-movie podcast before this, and I talked more about it. I call my fiance the fitness instructor. She took a little spill this weekend, so fortunately I've been in the hospital for the better part, but I'm super tired, so just forget about that. It was her brother. I guess that's kind of interesting. Keep going.
Brother, it was her brother. Now, we don't know if her real brother plays her adopted brother in the movie. So there's still some
It could
ground to
actually
cover there.
I'm quite certain that he does not. So,
All right, so we're
Why don't you
moving
tell
on
us
to the
your
next one.
fact?
So
Yeah.
basically, when Olive or Emma Stone is going into the bookstore and she's like, "Oh, I'm looking for your religious section," and they're like, "Oh, it's over there," and she's like, "The Bible." Oh, they're like, "Oh, that's in bestsellers," and he's like, "Oh, that's right next to Twilight."
Yeah,
So-
bestsellers right next to Twilight.
Sticking with our actors play multiple roles kind of thing.
Oh,
Which we
yeah.
have no idea about. We had no clue that actors were. I thought it was a one movie kind of thing, like you were in one movie and that was your whole career. I had no
Yeah.
idea that they were allowed to play different roles.
Dude, yeah,
Like,
shout
did
out
you?
David Krumholtz. Like the fact that people were perplexed on TikTok, me saying that David Krumholtz played Bernard the head elf, and then a coked out guy in Superbad grabbing Michael Cera's face. Like they're like, oh, I can't believe actors do both.
Yeah.
Hey man, I know.
What was he? 12 in the
I
first
say I'm
one?
by no means an expert. Our name is Sincerely Unqualified, but I have a podcast about movies. You don't think I know that actors play multiple roles? My God.
Did you know that Will Ferrell was in both Talladega Nights and Step
And Ricky
Brothers?
Bobby. Oh, Step Brothers.
Oh, it's crazy,
All right.
right?
Yeah. So let's push
Basically,
through your fact.
okay. So basically, like to do with Twilight, which was, a little connection that's thrown in there. Twilight was the bestseller, and then the 22-year-old high school student who gets chlamydia was played by
Or it gives Lisa Kudrow chlamydia.
Either one, it could have been either one. I don't
who
think we ever
knows?
get
Yeah.
a clear diagnosis of who had chlamydia first. I think it's chicken or the egg kind of scenario.
Yeah.
But so the actor who plays the 22-year-old high school student, Micah, actually played the main villain, James, in the Twilight movies. So a little connection there. I didn't know they were allowed to do that. But the more we're just learning the history of
We're learning so much.
I know.
Yeah. Honestly, I thought that line was great though. She's like, "Oh, I'm actually looking for the Bible," and he's like, "Oh, that's in bestsellers."
Oh, that's in
right next to
bestsellers.
Twilight.
That was a really great line. There's so many good little lines in this movie that go.
This movie is full of lines. There were a lot of lines to pick from for lines, but
Absolutely.
yeah. So going off of that, not really going off of it, but just another fact. So two students who paid Olive to say that they slept together their names are Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. And they're actually named after a famous comedy writing directing team. So you love seeing some people just giving shouts out. I bet they're friends. I bet they're connected, and they're just like, you know what? I'll name you that in the movie. No worries.
Absolutely. That was probably such a cool little thing. I feel like if you're friends with people in Hollywood, your name could be, thrown in there a little bit more than usual, and you're one to kind of notice it. That would be really cool.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Did you know about the
And
oranges
then-
as well?
The oranges. No.
You didn't know about the oranges.
Oh, actually, I remember
So-
coming across this. Let the people know.
The people need to know about this because the director, Gluck, said that the oranges, he tried to basically fit as many oranges in scenes as he could. So like whenever there's a scene and you see an orange, just know that it was on purpose. So it's in the cafeteria scene and things like that. And then in his other movie, Friends with Benefits, he tries to do the same thing with some hidden oranges. So it's kind of like an Easter egg in the movies where it's like, if you see an
It's like
orange,
his
it's not just there for no reason.
He's like the wet bandits in Home Alone. He needs his calling card.
Exactly. You got to leave something.
Also, I was going to say everything is on purpose, Matthew. Everything.
Everything.
Keep that in mind.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, also, so I just realized I threw in the names Phil Lord and Chris Miller without really saying what they did. They did 21 and 22 Jump Street in terms of comedies, but they also did Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I think both did Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but it might have just been Lord. But yeah, so like the 21 and 22 Jump Street guys, great movies as well. That's something we'll do those at some point for sure. Do you have anything else we need to add before we go on to favorites?
No, I think we covered a lot of diverse facts. I think we need to give the people some of what we loved, some specifics. Let's dive a little deep.
All right, so let's step away from mispronunciations for a sec. We'll go character for character. I took the best one again. Actually, you know what we should start doing? We should flip week after week, because I got the best one last week and I'm getting the best one this week. But I have to say my favorite character is her dad. I think its name is Dill. So that's another thing. All of the family members are named after
food. It's just all food.
Yeah, food. So she's Olive. He's
Chip.
Dill. Yeah, Chip. And then I think her mom's name is Rosemary.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So it's Rosemary.
Or there's a Rosemary in the movie at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Stanley Tucci absolutely kills it in this role. Some of the best lines in the movie come from him. He's just his delivery is flawless. It's just absolutely flawless. He is such a good, nice dad role.
Oh yeah.
I can't get enough of him.
He's the perfect embodiment of like the dad is chill as hell and just knows exactly what's going on, has no worries about his kids whatsoever, because he just passed on that sense of like, you can handle yourself. You know what's up. Yeah, and if you know what's ever wrong, you come to me. Yeah. Yeah. And
it's not like some parents are like, honestly, like too chill sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes him awesome, is because you know exactly what type of parent this is, and you just assume that Stanley Tucci is also that parent.
Their team
he does it so well.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Just how they attack the whole situations. I mean, they're great. They're great. I mean, throughout the whole movie. No, but also
the entire family dynamic. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get into that, because you can't over or underappreciate how much that comes into play. For me, he's not in it as much as I think he should be, but also I think he's in it just the right amount for him to have an impact the most as a character. And it's Mr. Griffith, the English teacher.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's a great character, but which one is it? You said he's not in it enough, and then he's in it the perfect amount.
So I think that what I meant by that is that I think he could have been in it more, but I think it would have diminished the impact that the character has, because
I would agree.
Then you would know almost too much about him versus kind of having, because I feel like there's that one teacher in the school who doesn't really take any shit, but the intentions are good, really wants to teach everybody, and is cool with who's genuinely like a good person, kind of cool, and knows, like, will call out bullshit. Like, it doesn't play the oblivious card, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know everybody hated this person. They're like, I know what's going on. I'm going to teach you guys. I'm going to give the best lessons I can. Did all that, was a great guy, and then, ended up in a bad situation. But
yeah, I would agree with, I think that he's used sparingly, not quite sparingly, because he's a pretty major character, obviously, especially coming in with the end. Like, he's the victim in pretty much all of this. But I think that, well, obviously he's hilarious. He has some great lines. Yeah. Absolutely. I also think that they do really well in characterizing him with the few lines that he has, especially right in the beginning. Like, even if you didn't have a teacher quite like him, there was a mix. I think he was a mix of pretty much every good quality in a teacher, and you got it pretty much from the first few lines. You're just like, this guy's awesome.
Even the scene where, like, she's in the cafeteria and started to dress scandalous and everything like that, and he just walks up and he's in line. He's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Nothing." And then just there's a slight pause, and he just goes, "Don't forget it's Earth Day tomorrow," and just walks away.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't need to say anything.
Doesn't need to say anything. He's like, "I know what you're doing. Like, don't bullshit.
Yeah, he's like that person in your life, whether it's a teacher, whether it's whatever. You don't want to disappoint them. What once they seem disappointed, you're like, man, like,
Yeah,
didn't do that.
exactly. So that's where
So I think,
strong runner-up is definitely her mom. Her mom is awesome too.
yeah, her mom's awesome.
But I feel like she can get grouped in with the dad for like strongest characters that are throughout, especially when they're working together. Just so great.
Well, so we'll move on to scene for scene, because that's actually my favorite scene, just because of how good they are together, and they have this cool, really funny family dynamic that seems almost believable, even though I doubt anyone's actually that cool. But like they are so good together. Their first scene, they're kind of all gathered about eating breakfast, and she's just explaining her troubles to them. It's such a good scene that has a few lines that are going to come up after this, so I probably won't say much about it, but there's one in particular that I think I mentioned in the top 10 episode, actually, just like randomly when we started talking. I was like, oh yeah, Easy A, that's a movie, and then said this. But the line that just sticks out to me, both her, like we were talking about, just like the parent dynamic is fantastic. I really don't have much else to say about it other than what we've already said.
Yeah, I mean, you can't talk about it enough, how awesome it is. Like every scene you saw in their household, you were like, this is gonna be hilarious.
It's a nice comedic break from anything cringy or just kind of sad. Like whenever it's also a really good way for her to resolve what is happening, the whole time. Especially shout out to her mom for the last scene that they're together and they're up on the car at like looking over the city, and it's what really gets Olive to a good state of mind, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna start doing this, and like the whole, like her mom's talking about how she got plowed through or something.
Literally, she's like, my leg used to go all the way up.
It's so endearing because it's done well. That could have went so poorly. It just been like really off-putting, but they earned the right to do that through all of the fantastic characterization and lines up until that point. So yeah, but honestly, I think my favorite scene would be the first one that sets it up and characterizes them.
And it's such a great transition every time they go to the family, because it's such a difference of like everything crazy is going on at school. And then it's almost like real life, where you come back from school, and if you're hanging out with your family a little bit, you can disconnect from those issues and just be like, all right, these aren't a big deal. Like just having fun. They're watching the bucket list, having fun with your family, even staying in on the weekend. Like you take a breather and you realize some problems aren't that big when you're just having that time, just take a step back. And that's really represented well, whether it be for the comedic breaks or everything or the relationship. I just feel like that aspect of everything, even going through high school and stuff, that was awesome. But for me,
couldn't agree more.
For me, what I liked about a specific scene was kind of against the grain, but I just thought it was cool how they did it and how everything kind of played out, which was the gossip montages of how, something would start and then they would literally show it going through the entire school. Obviously it's an exaggeration. It's not going to go in like 25 minutes where she's still standing in the same place, but it does show, how quickly things do get around, especially when, they talked about Facebook in this. Obviously, people now have transitioned off of Facebook, but 10 years ago, if something's getting posted on Facebook, it's going to get around to every single person in the school in like a day or two.
Honestly, we said we weren't film guys, but now we're talking the cinematography. I did think that was cool. I agree. It makes for a really cool scene. Like I'm just joking. there's no way, like, there's no doubt that those scenes are super cool. And it is a good encapsulation of, like, I mean, stuff moves so fast and it all gets so misconstrued too.
Oh yeah,
like,
it's the telephone
it
game.
starts as something and no doubt.
Like, oh, I heard
no
you
doubt.
gave him a hand job behind the counter, blah blah blah. It's like, what did you? How does the? And she literally goes. Emma Stone goes like, I'm very worried about how information goes around in this school. It's just like
It is super funny.
it's so true
It's
to
super
form.
funny.
Yeah, it's just like everything you hear from somebody is through 7 different people. It's like, what are you even talking about? But that was cool to see.
Yeah. So we got the information spreading scenes, I guess. You want to move on to line for line? We'll wrap
Let's do
up
it.
here.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So the first one, so mine are actually chronological. It's not exactly 1, 2, 3 for me, but the first one that like really cracked me up during this is, so she's talking to her friend that prides herself on, being sexual and everything.
Yeah.
And so
Allie
when
from Allie
Emma
and
Stone
AJ.
first, huh?
Allie from Allie and AJ.
Oh, is it?
They had a Disney Channel show for a while.
Ah, yeah. Who? What was the actress's name?
Allie something.
Oh yeah, Ali Michalka. Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah. So shout out to her. She was fantastic in it. But so it's when Emma Stone first, I guess, lies and says, "Oh, I had sex with so and so," and she's like, "Oh, I'm so happy now. You could be a super slut like me." Or now you're one of the super sluts. And then the line that Emma Stone says is, "I don't think letting Peter Headland motorboat you behind a Bed Bath and Beyond makes you a super slut." For some reason, cracked me up so much. She's like, "Hey, now you can be like a slut like me, someone that's so proud of being like promiscuous." And then then you hear that Peter Headland just motorboated her behind a Bed Bath and Beyond.
And I love that she immediately after goes, "People could have seen. There were a lot of people around."
Yeah,
like, all right, cool,
risky.
Yeah.
Risky.
Oh, especially behind.
Also,
the Bed Bath
but
and
who's
Beyond.
behind a Bed Bath and Beyond?
Yeah.
Some sketch balls, probably.
This line for me was, I mean, I loved it just because, I don't know, something about it really got me. And
This is a very you line.
I loved it. So it was like immediately after Brandon walks out of the bedroom where, they're jumping around, they're on the bed, Emma Stone has an asthma attack off camera, everything like that. They're jumping around, having faking the sex scene, walks out. The random kid that was like looking at him before, kind of seems like one of the popular kids, runs up, grabs him and goes like, "Dude, how was she?" And he just goes, "Let's just say I'll be walking funny tomorrow." And there's just a long pause of everybody like, "What? Wait, what?" And he just goes, "I'm drunk, bitches." And everyone's just like, yeah.
Yeah.
That was
such a nice high school scene.
Yeah, that was so good. It's just like blame that on you being drunk. Yeah, like oh, I'll be walking funny tomorrow. Like
okay.
Everyone's like, okay.
Yeah. Speaking of him, Emma Stone and him have this great relationship going throughout. It's very endearing. Great for the most part. But when they are in the midst of it, I guess, when they're in the midst of it, this is actually a line from her mom. Again, she's fantastic. But she goes, I guess Emma Stone is a little bummed out. She walks up and she's like, "Oh, he seems like a nice kid. He seemed a little incredibly gay." This is supposed to be her boyfriend. And then obviously the parents know that she's dating a gay guy.
Yeah.
So the delivery of that line alone, I tried to do a little service, but it was such a good line that cracked me up because it catches you off guard. It's like, "Oh, it seems like a nice kid. Seemed a little incredibly gay."
He seemed a little incredibly gay.
Yeah.
So good.
It's so good. And then you have, like, with that kind of stuff, Stanley Tucci talks about, he's like, "Yeah, no, I was gay once. Everyone does it."
Yeah.
I think that they do that super well too. Like you can't write in the other parallel. Like this
Yeah.
movie is also about him a good bit too, and not have some really good lines revolving around that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that line.
I mean-
what's your second?
My second is going to be when she is in the principal's office the first time. And, you know, we have this renowned actor. What's his name? I always forget his name. Is it Malcolm
Principal's
McDowell? Yeah.
office?
So Malcolm McDowell.
Oh, Malcolm McDowell?
Yeah, Malcolm McDowell. Now I'm pronouncing things like you. You got me in it. But he's telling her, like, this is a public school. You can't be doing that. He goes, this isn't one of those progressive schools where teachers are called by their first name and students are partners in learning.
Yeah. This is a public school.
Yeah. Just saying that whole stuff. He's like, if I keep the boys off the pipe and the girls off the pole, I do it justice.
Yeah. But yeah, the first names and partners in learning is fantastic before that.
Yeah, that was so good. I mean, he's perfect for that. He's in it for probably 3 scenes max. But he's so great, and he has an impact on whenever he's in a movie or a show or anything. You know, that one line, that delivery is perfect for him.
Yeah, I love Malcolm McDowell.
What about you? What are you throwing in?
You didn't even catch that. I just threw shade.
No,
so
I ignored
last
you
but not
completely.
least, there you go.
That's the
last
Irish
but not
in you.
least, I'm going my favorite act or my favorite character from my favorite scene. It's when they're they're at the table. They're just kind of talking, and her adopted brother says that. Well, I'll go through it. He's like, "Oh, I like your pants." She said, "Oh, you can have them when you grow into them." He said he's never going to go through puberty. And then the mom's like, "Oh, no, we go through puberty. Great. Like, that's what we do in this family." And he's like, "But I'm adopted." And then Stanley Tucci goes, "What? Oh my God. Who told you? Guys, we were going to do this at the right time."
Head up against the cabinet.
Head up against the cabinet. So he's like, it's just such a funny, because that's such a topic to deal with, and it's funny because he's black, they're white. It's so obvious, and then that is the perfect characterization of his character. It's just like, how are we going to deal with this? We have an adopted child. We're going to make a joke out of it. What? Oh my God! Who told you? That is far and away my favorite line.
That combined with later in the movie when they're sitting down at breakfast or something, and he just turns to his adopted son and he goes, "Where are you from originally?" Just
yeah. I thought that was like pouring a little too much salt on. Like I honestly I think because I like this line as much as I did, I was like, we should have just let that live there. But no, that was also a really good.
I thought that was a nice little toss in. Just like, all right, let's have it be a throwaway line. Okay, for me, my last one is, I don't know why I thought it was so funny, but I did, because maybe it's the randomness factor. Maybe it's, probably that Quiznos had some hand in advertising this. Whether or not they knew it.
It's not happening for free.
Behind the their protest to get her kicked out of school, there was the guy dressed in the Quiznos outfit, and he's walking in, and they're all like, "Expel her, blah, 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 blah." And then the Quizno guy just comes up behind and just starts going, "New honey mustard chicken at Quiznos." And she just yells, Emma Stone yells, "Not now, Quiznos." And the guy in the suit just goes, "You're a slut."
That's a close second for me. Yeah, the "You're a slut" is hilarious from him, but for some reason it cracked me up when she called them Quiznos.
Yeah,
when she said "not now, Quiznos," I was like, oh.
Just they had a hand in this. It's like, "Not now, Quiznos."
That they absolutely had a hand in it, but also they couldn't have picked a better restaurant name than Quiznos.
Oh, yeah.
If it was not restaurant name, I'm saying like a better sponsor for that, whatever they sponsored for this movie.
You can't get a better name. Yeah, I feel like if you replace it with anything else, if it's like, "Oh, not now, Subway," it's like, all right, we get it.
hey, we don't talk about him anymore.
I feel like Quiznos is just obscure enough. I know what you're doing there, Jared. It's just obscure enough where it's just like, all right,
Step into the hot water.
yeah. Stay away from the chomo.
I think that about wraps it up. If you're still watching, thanks so much. We love the listeners. We want you guys to interact with us again. So if you liked it, please like, rate, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Follow us on social. It's all going to be in there. If you're already following us, thanks. Hopefully keep following us. We'll be releasing some clips. That's what we like doing. But yeah, no, definitely reach out to us. We want to interact with people who found us, and we want to keep growing. So tell your friends if you like it. Also, if you guys have a favorite movie and we haven't done it yet, we'll do it. We'll see what we can do. So, anything else to wrap up?
We want to mention what we got next week, or we want to leave it up in the air.
We'll leave it up in the air for now.
All right.
So I think something I like doing, honestly, just because I'm more familiar with it, is Instagram stories. So what I'm going to try to do is post an Instagram story on Mondays saying what we're going to do the next day. That's about it. So I'm Kevin.
I'm Winnie.
We'll see you at the next episode.
Take your overs.
Why do you keep saying that?